this is Susie Nelson, and first of all, my sincere apologies to the tons of people who were on the webinar. I was testing a new system, and I've obviously into the webinar, I found out that the sound wasn't working. Once I went into that full screen mode, I couldn't see the chat box, so people were saying no sound. Anyway, my apologies. Then I worked to try to record some things and had more technical glitches, and I finally said, I need a fresh start in the morning. So this is the recorded webinar on essential skills for internet marketing. Now, you'll want to grab a piece of paper and take some careful notes because this is loaded with information. And everything I'm sharing with you, you will be able to do yourself if you've got some computer skills and you're kind of savvy with the computer and you've got some time to spend. So, let's dig right in. Excuse me. First, let me give you a little bit of background. I actually attended my first marketing webinar about 13 years ago. I was in a business partnership. We were doing creating training products and doing some speaking, and I went to this marketing webinar for speakers, and that's when I fell in love with marketing and became a marketing junkie. So these days, I have books and books and books of sales and marketing techniques, and right now, not a week goes by that I don't spend 2 to 3 or more hours per week watching training webinars about internet marketing because I'm extremely passionate about internet marketing too. The thing you have to remember about internet marketing is that it's complex and it changes very, very quickly, and it does take a commitment if you want to be an effective internet marketer to keep up with the changes. But don't worry, I'll be teaching you how to do this efficiently, so just keep that in mind. In my opinion, the party plan world is way behind when it comes to internet marketing. Now, many companies are out there doing advertising, pay-per-click, and that kind of information, and you see them a lot. And some of them allow their consultants to do pay-per-click, but many don't allow consultants to promote themselves much at all on the internet. And the big secret that they're missing and where you can dominate your business is by having a presence locally. And I'll talk more about that in just a little bit. But you can outdo not only your home party plan competitors, but you can outdo some retail stores who might carry your type of products when you really learn these techniques. So it's very powerful. Let's talk about social media for a little bit. I'm going to say not a day goes by where I don't see somebody putting on a class about how to use Facebook or how to use LinkedIn. And certainly social media these days needs to be a part of your internet marketing strategy. Social media has its place, but most people really don't know how to use these resources properly to attract business. In fact, recent data shows that a very small percentage of businesses actually acquire customers or actually acquire business via social media. They know they have to be there, but they're not necessarily generating a lot of business through social media. So that's kind of an interesting new statistic that's come out. I'm guessing, let's talk about Facebook. Excuse me, I'm guessing that your company probably does have a fan page, and hopefully it's done the right activities to generate lots of followers. The big mistakes that consultants make all the time using Facebook is they use their personal Facebook accounts rather than setting up a page for their business. It's a big mistake. Because if you think about it, certainly your customers love you, and you might consider some of them to be your friends, but they don't really want all the information that you share with your friends, right? When you share with your friends, you probably share, who's had a baby or whose birthday it is or where the party is this coming weekend. that's not the kind of information your customers really want to see. They want to see more useful information, perhaps ways to use your product, or even a helpful tip that has nothing to do with your business. Um, and so, if your internet marketing strategy does include Facebook, be sure to create your own business page. And later, I'll be telling you how that can just be updated automatically. You'll also want to use events properly on Facebook. Create events for, let's say that you're doing a multi distributor event. Certainly set that up as an event on Facebook. One thing that I really love about Facebook, and when I do training on getting bookings, I think that you should look at Facebook and look at the friends of your friends as you work to expand your business, because you might jog your memory on people that you know or knew a long time ago, that you just haven't had a chance to connect with and talk to about your business. So certainly look through your friends and get that, use that for some ideas on potential hosts who might eventually become prospects, right? Okay, next let's talk about Twitter. Excuse me. Twitter is growing, growing, growing. We know that people with star power like Ashton Kutcher, they follow, if you actually looked him up, he follows very few people. In fact, I don't know if he follows anybody. He might have a second Twitter account because you can set up multiple accounts there. But obviously, he's got millions of followers. In fact, he was in that contest a few years ago. Be sure on Twitter to provide useful information. Be sure to retweet. Automate it whenever you can using programs like Hootsuite or some of those. And again, use a separate account for your business. LinkedIn, another one. Definitely, you want to make sure that you have a good profile set up on LinkedIn and start connecting to some of your business associates. And Pinterest. This is a growing popularity. Definitely create an account and a profile. It's not one I've used a lot yet, but certainly I'm starting to hear about it a lot more. Now, YouTube. This is a very important account, and that's because Google owns it. Yep, a couple years ago, Google bought YouTube. So when you put something on YouTube, it's going to rank really well on Google because Google owns it. You don't need to be a video guru, and more information about that later, but you do definitely need a video account. So, in summary, regarding social media, it's very important and it should be part of your overall online strategy, but you can't invest tons of time on your Facebook page thinking it's going to generate a big bunch of business, because the fact is that's not a good use of your time. So before we jump into the 5 secrets of internet marketing, we need to discuss your company's replicated websites. In other words, the website that you can send your customers and hosts to, where they can place orders, where you can set up parties. You probably pay a monthly fee for it, and it looks just like your company's website, but it has your consultant information listed in the corner someplace, right? And you probably were able to set up your profile there and put a little blurb about your business, right? Now, these are important for your business. Very, very important. If you don't have one and your company offers it, you need to have one. They serve an important purpose because it lets you set up parties, take outside orders. Prospects can access more info about products and business. And the company probably sends an email newsletter to your customers monthly. That actually is based on everybody you have entered in when you enter your orders. So definitely take use of all those, make use of all those tools. But here's the problem with the company replicated websites. Your website isn't a lead generation website. It's not out there reeling people in for you, and I'm going to show you why in a minute. Because it's not search engine optimized. It is not tied to your local market, and it doesn't help you compete against retail. So let me give you a little example of this. I'm going to pull up Google, a browser here. And I actually, when you registered for the webinar, I asked you to put down um, some names of some people who are, I'm sorry, I asked you to put down your address. And so just to pull some, we had people from well over 25 different companies registered for the webinar. And one of them was a Pampered Chef consultant in Davenport, Iowa. So I'm going to put, first I'm going to put cookware, Davenport, Iowa. And when you look at this, now there's a couple things, it's probably hard to see on this video, but there's a couple things I want to point out. And the first thing is, I want you to see that there are only 211,000 results when I type in cookware Davenport. So what's important about that is that it might seem a little counterintuitive, but there's 211,000 results. I mean, a lot of times if you just put in cookware, you're going to get several million results. You actually want to take advantage of the fact that when you do a local search like that, because I put in the term Davenport, the town she lives in, you have to keep in mind that that gives you fewer results, and so it makes it easier for you to compete. And if you look at this, there's not anything listed here about Pampered Chef. And let's see if I put in Pampered Chef. Whoop, Pampered Chef Davenport. I do get an Iowa Pampered Chef consultant in Davenport, and that is through a directory site. So these are people who have listed themselves in directories. Now, I'm going to talk in a minute about how people tend to search online, but keep in mind that that's really important when it comes to you being found. Let me try another search. We had a person in La Mesa, California, who was with a jewelry company. Jewelry, La Mesa, California. And I'm getting some retail stores, and you're seeing here, when you see these that come up with these little funny symbols, those people have been registered with Google Places. And I'm going to talk about that. That's what these are. And you'll see these are all jewelry stores, and this is going to be really important when we talk about your online strategy. Okay? Now there's one that I want to show you because I went through here and found some interesting results. I went through about 10 different people who were registered. And I want you to see what happens when I put in cookware, Hollinsburg, Ohio. Now, again, this one actually has a ton of results, but here is what's important. As you scroll down here, right down here, see this Tupperware listing? Now here's what's interesting. Perhaps this person is no longer in the business, or perhaps the person got scolded for using the word Tupperware, which is possible, right? Because a lot of the companies don't want you using their brand name. In fact, something that's really, really important is that I don't want you to use your company's brand name. And I'll talk about that when it comes to how you search. But keep in mind, it's a really fluid business. And I hope that you're madly in love with your company. I hope that your company is treating you extremely well. But at the same time, you're the business person. You're the face of your business. So I want you to be much more focused on branding yourself rather than your company, because like we say in the airplanes, in the unlikely event of a water landing, well, in the unlikely event that you choose to change companies, or heaven forbid something happens with your company, I want you to be able to seamlessly change to a new one and not miss a beat on the internet. Okay? All right, so that's just showing you a couple of those searches. So let's go back to the presentation for a minute. Okay, so let me talk about how people search on the internet, because this is what's really, really, really important to think about. I want to talk about the buying process. And I'm going to first talk about it as though you were searching for a new vehicle. This might be a hard little chart to see, but basically you'll see it's an upside down triangle. And that's because we start with a lot of people who go out to the internet to gather information, and that's in the awareness stage. Then they move to the interest stage. Once their interest is piqued, they move on to the learning stage. And from there, some of those people go shopping and eventually buy. And the reason it's an upside down triangle is that there's lots more people who come in looking for awareness and interest and learning, and kind of filter themselves out. And that's why it's a smaller number of people who buy. So it's kind of like a funnel. So let's say that you wanted to shop for a new vehicle. And let's say you've heard about hybrids. So you might go to the internet and type in hybrid vehicle, right? Well, then you'd probably see something about the Toyota and the Honda, and you'd get some more information, and it would talk about how they work and talk about gas mileage. So, right, you're learning, you're interested, you're learning. And so you might make the decision to start shopping, and you'd probably go to each of those dealerships and test drive. Right now, you're in the shopping phase, and when you narrowed it down to which hybrid vehicle you loved, you might buy, right? So that's how it takes you through that process. So the same thing's going to happen when people go online to start searching for your products. They're not necessarily going to go and type in the name of your company. They're going to go and type in the word chocolate, or they're going to type in bedding or jewelry or whatever product you happen to be representing. Or they might even be typing in something less descriptive and eventually get to your type of product. For example, we had a person register for the webinar who sells jeans. Well, they might start to type in clothing stores, and then it might narrow down. So that's all part of the process of learning how to market yourself online, is understanding how they go in and start to do their searches. So a big mistake is that those consultants who do have their online presence, maybe your company lets you run ads. What those ads are typically trying to do is capture people based on booking a party or looking at your business opportunity, when they really first might be starting to search for a part-time job, right? So you really got to think about the message that you put in their ads and where their head is at when they're doing those searches. So once you understand that buying process, really think about it. It will completely change how you market on the internet. So I'm shifting gears a little bit, but what stage are you at in your business? I want you to think about this, because I made a really big mistake when I was building my business, and it literally cost me thousands and thousands of dollars. And that is, I had this vision that I was going to have this national unit. I wanted people all over the country. And certainly, eventually, that happened. But when you are first building your business, frankly, the most powerful way for you to build your party plan business, if you're in the early stages, is to build big groups close to home, or perhaps choose a couple additional locations purposefully. And when I say that, what I mean is, let's say that you go to visit your mother and she lives a couple hours away. Well, what you'd want to do, obviously, is to use that as one of the locations where you build your business, so that you could write off those trips to visit your mother, right? Do a party right off that trip. I did that a lot. I used to fly back to Minnesota, and I would write off the trip because I would do a sales meeting and do a party. So if you're in the early stages of building your business, choose 2 to 3 locations. What happened with me is I ended up I met a woman in my backyard who lived in California. So I was at a picnic, and she wanted more information on my business. I sponsored her. She started growing her business. So in the very early stages of my business building, I was flying to California to work with her, or I was driving 6 hours to a location to work with another consultant. And it took a lot of time, it took a lot of money. Certainly these days you can do a lot more online with, doing conference calls and webinars, or connecting on Skype. But at the same time, you really want to think about that in the early phases of your business. So start by choosing 2 to 3 locations purposefully and really get big groups built up in those locations. Then you're ready to expand, and it will start to happen naturally because you'll have, somebody who sponsors their cousin who lives in one of those other locations, and the person becomes a dynamo. So really think about that because it impacts your online marketing. So when I say what stage are you in, if you're in the consultant stage, just start, building your team, and your approach needs to be different, and you really want to capitalize on the local portion of internet marketing. If you're in the team building stage, you're going to be helping people who are growing their businesses, right? You're growing your business, you're helping them grow their business. And if you're in the organization building stage, your online approach does need to be thinking more nationally, but you need to think about that with a local emphasis, okay? So let's move on to the 5 secrets. Everything I'm going to share are things that you can do yourself. If you're willing to invest time and you're willing to learn. Now, I was kind of snickering the other day because several years ago, one of my mentors talked about the fact that really time is more valuable than money, and time is your most valuable asset. And I was watching Shark Tank the other night, one of my favorite shows, and Mark Cuban, the owner of the Dallas Mavericks, he had said to one of the people who was pitching their product on Shark Tank, the reason I can't do this is that I think it will take too much of my time, and time is my most valuable asset, was specifically what Mark Cuban said. So that was a great reminder. But keep in mind, it does take time. All right, so secret number 1, you'll want to take some careful notes. Secret number 1 is that you need to have a WordPress blog as a website. Now, WordPress is very, very easy to work with. I'm going to pull up the backside of one of my WordPress sites here in just a second and show it to you. WordPress is designed to be search engine friendly. That was part of the whole design factor. It works like a word processor, so it's very, very easy. If you can type a document into Word, you can work with a WordPress blog. It resides in the cloud, and what I mean by that is a typical website, they basically create the page on their computer, and once that page is all ready and they've tested their links and everything, they upload that file to their server. Well, in WordPress, it sits out on the internet. They call that being in the cloud. So you can log in from anywhere in the world. You can log into the backside of your WordPress site from any computer or even a mobile device, and you can make a change or make an addition to that website. So that's a really huge advantage. And when you create your WordPress blog, you don't want to use your company name. Remember, I said don't use that, and many companies have regulations against it. Instead, you're going to use a search word in your URL. So if you sell cosmetics, it might be, cosmetics and your hometown. So we'll talk more about that. Another reason for using WordPress blogs is that Google loves content. I don't know if you follow internet marketing at all, but there's always a lot of buzz in the internet marketing world because Google changes stuff constantly. And about a year and a half ago, it changed its algorithm, and that's the mathematical formula that figures out what it's going to show when you type something into Google as a search. They changed their mathematical formula, and some very well-known companies that were dominating the internet disappeared. They absolutely disappeared off the face of the internet world. And that's because Google really focuses everything on giving the people who are searching a good experience. So be sure to use the search engine portions of your WordPress website really well, and I will teach you how to do that. But let me pull up the back end of one of my websites just so that you can see how this works. So I'll pull up the back end of my training website. It's susienelson-training.com. And to get to the back end, I have to put a slash word wp-admin. That's where I can get at logging in and all the backside. I must have been logged in already, but typically you would bring up a login page. It would just ask for your username and password, just like anything else you log into. And it will bring you to the backside of the site, which looks like this. And so if I were to want to add a new page to this website, all I would have to do is scroll down here to the dashboard, click Add a New Page. I can type the title. I can type in right here what I want it to say, and I can either do this in HTML or if I want to go to visual. These should look familiar to you. These are all of the commands that you use in a word processor, right? I mean, here's bold type, italic type, strike through type. I mean, all of these things, how you want it to be centered or left justified or right justified, underline it, a choice in colors of font. So everything you're used to seeing in a word processor is right there. All you have to do is type it in, or you could type something on a Word document and copy and paste it right in here. It is that simple. And then over here on the right, you publish your page. That is all there is to it. Down below, there's where you'll need to learn a little bit of SEO work, search engine optimization work. I happen to have a special program on here. I'm scrolling down because it actually is a program that figures out the SEO work for me. Okay, so very, very simple to use, but you'll want to learn how to do that. It really, you can be up and running on a WordPress site in an hour. So it's that simple, especially if it's all set up for you. Okay, so let's go back to our slideshow here. Okay, so that showed you the back end of a WordPress site. So secret number one, excuse me, was start with a WordPress blog as a website for so many reasons. The internet loves them. They get great search engine results. So let's move to secret number two. I showed you some of those search results earlier. You want to focus on local versus national searches. Now, when I pulled up a couple of those searches, you saw that there were much smaller search results. And that's really important because you want to be the big fish in a small pond. That's my best description. You don't want to be the little minnow out in the ocean. You want to be a big fish in a small pond. So the more that you can focus your search results on your local city, or if you're using 2 or 3 different locations for your business on those locations, the easier it's going to be for you to attract business. You definitely need to remember that buying process I talked about when determining keywords and keyword phrases to use. And again, that's a whole education, but I'm sure you've all heard people talk about their keywords. But you definitely will want to use some tools and do some research to figure out what people are searching for when they're searching for your product, and you kind of like reverse engineer it. But anyway, that could be a 2-hour training course. um, Capitalize on your city. So in your URL, if you live in San Francisco, you want San Francisco in your URL. So let's say that you sell cosmetics in San Francisco. Try to buy the URL Cosmetics San Francisco, because that's a great way for you to capitalize on what people might be searching for. Secret number 3, set up Google Places and local directories. Now, do you remember when I said, I'm going to pull up a page and show you again, but do you remember when I said that you want to, let me see, let me pull somebody else who was on the webinar. When I said that you want to be among the top there, let me search for embroidered bags, because we had somebody from 31 Gifts, Novi, Michigan. All right, look at this. Embroidered bags in Novi, Michigan. This is a bad example for Google Places. Sorry about that, but there's one here, so that's good. There are 39,700 results, right? So a very small number of search results on the internet. That's awesome because you can pop out ahead of these people. There is one Google Places listing, and it's actually also a paid advertiser. If I go over here and ask Google to show me the places listings, okay? These are companies that have listed themselves through Google Places, and they have gotten some good citations. See this one, Underground Printing? This company is using Google Places really well because it's getting these stars mean that people have given them reviews and that they've really done well, and that's why they're listed so high on Google Places. So that's really, really important to take advantage of your Google Places listing. Okay. Now, obviously, this is a bunch of different embroidery companies, but when I didn't have places chosen, Google kind of said, she's just asking me about embroidered bags, and so I'll give her the results I think are important. And of course, it thinks I'm in Greensboro, but because when people are searching locally, it will know where they're searching from. You want to be the highest ranked website in Google Places. This is a way that you can beat your competition in the retail and the competition in your home party business worlds. Okay? It's really important to set those up properly. And it's really important to get some good reviews. So see this one here where there's a couple reviews. You actually need to learn how to ask a few of your customers to give you some really strong reviews, and you want to manage that because you want a good review. You don't want to have a 1-star review, you want 5 stars. All right, so Google Places is really, really, really important. That has to be a third part of you managing your online strategy. All right, so back to the slideshow. So that's really important. That was secret number 3, set up Google Places and also local directories. One thing you can do in Google Places, and none of the ones that I brought up showed this, but another way that you can really outdo all of the competition in Google Places is to include images in your Google Places listings and to use videos. Remember earlier when I said that Google loves videos on YouTube because it owns YouTube? So when you set up your Google Places listings, you definitely want to take advantage of images that are optimized, and you want to take advantage of using some videos. Now, videos don't have to be you going out with a camera and doing anything fancy. You can literally create some videos just using some photos. It's that simple. These days, pretty much every computer comes with a program to create a video with some photos. You might want to add a little music. Be sure to put your URL at the end of it, and be sure that you let that URL slide sit there for a long time, like 30 seconds, so that your video ends with that URL. But that's a great way to really, really, really outdo everybody, especially in those local searches. So, secret number 4, take advantage of trending. See, once you have this local focus for your business, well, now you can start to add posts to your website that focus on things that are happening locally. So, for example, if you have a city celebration or some big event at the church or any kind of local news, you can now capitalize on that to get noticed. Now, let me show you this example. I've popped this screen up a couple times. Where did it go? Maybe I got rid of it. Nope, here it is. Okay, I grew up in South St. Paul, Minnesota. And so they have their big city celebration every year, and it's called Kaposia Days. Now, look at this. I put Kaposia Days in South St. Paul in my search, and I only got 6,010 results. Now, that's great. Remember when I said you want to be a big fish in a small pond? Now, people during Kaposia Days, before and after, they're going to go looking for information to find out what time's the parade, or what's happening with this event. Well, if you were using your WordPress blog, let's say that you chose to do a little booth at Kaposia Days, and if you started a couple weeks beforehand talking about how excited you are for your booth at Kaposia Days, and talking about how you're getting ready and how you hope to see people there, and also this should be connected to your Facebook posts and your tweets. It can all be done automatically from that blog, so you don't have to go and log into all those different places. But if you were talking about this, just think about it. You would probably start to be showing up on this first page because you were talking about Kaposia Days. Because there's so few posts about it. So you could definitely get some great action by taking advantage of that kind of event if you were posting about it on your blog. Okay? So you definitely want to take advantage of trending. So let me go back to the slideshow. So that was secret number 4, take advantage of trending. And secret number 5 is to automate everything you can and outsource everything you can. Maybe you have a kid who loves to type stuff on the internet. Well, get them to do posts for you. Or you can hire somebody to write up some posts. You can also, on a WordPress blog, schedule what time you want posts to go out. So you could literally set up posts for the next month for things that you just want to talk about, but they aren't time relevant. You could set those up and trickle them out, so you could do that in probably half a day, just to get that all set up. Do it just like you pay your monthly bills. Sit down and plan it out, write them out, and get them loaded up, or plan them out, hire somebody to do that for you inexpensively and get those posted. There's lots of programs to automate. When I said that you can set these things up so that it posts automatically to your Facebook page and posts automatically to Twitter and a whole bunch of other different areas, that can all be done automatically. The other thing that I think is very, very important, and that is to set up what's called an autoresponder to connect with your leads automatically. And if you're familiar with that term, or not familiar with that term, what happens is when you go to a website and you put your name and information in there and your email address, a system is set up so that once you have confirmed that email address, you don't want people who just put in bogus information. Once you've confirmed that email address, they are automatically sent emails from you based on specific time frames. So, for example, usually there's an automatic introductory email. If I entered my email address right now and confirmed it, I would get an email back saying, hey, I'm so glad that you're looking for this product. Gosh, I hope you click around at my website and look at here's the link to my company website where you can look at our products, blah, blah, blah. And then let's say the next day, it could send an email from you that says, I'm just checking in to make sure you got all the information that you needed. Here's a great thing going on right now with our company. And 2 days later, it could go to a third email. Literally, you can keep track of your prospects for years with autoresponders. These are used a lot these days, almost every industry, but you used to see them a lot initially in things like real estate, where they have a really long buying cycle. But autoresponders are really, really effective. And that way you could be on a vacation in Hawaii and your leads can be thinking that you're connecting with them when really you're just in Hawaii having a good time. So put some of your internet marketing on autopilot. So use automation and outsourcing. All right, now I know I have gone through a lot of information here. Keep in mind, you can do all of this yourself. If you've got the time, a little bit of computer savvy, these are all things you can set up and do yourself. But I'm kind of curious, wouldn't you rather spend time doing parties? Or wouldn't you rather spend time meeting with prospects and growing your organization? So I've teamed up with a company and we could actually do almost all of this for you. Here's what we do. We set up your personal WordPress blog. We load up your profile, your photo, your contact information, and we get your WordPress site working properly. In other words, we set up your connections to your Facebook page and your Twitter account, and we test everything and we have it doing everything it needs to do to be friendly with the search engines and get you lots of traffic. We also do keyword research. That's so critical to this process working well. We set up your Google Places listings and your local directory listings, and we manage your Google Places citations. And we connect all of this to your social media accounts. We also create PowerPoint videos using your photos because you really want to have 5 of them for your Google Places listings. And then we drive traffic. We use about 80 different techniques to help you drive traffic to your site. And this is what's really important because you have to put in some of that content I talked about. That's important because you're local and you have to put that in there and do some regular updates because Google loves content. Again, you can hire someone to do that very inexpensively if you aren't a person who writes. That's not a problem. But we want to make sure you know how to make this work and that you're getting good results. So we will be doing a monthly webinar to make sure that you're comfortable working with your site. And of course, we're available for support all the time. Plus, that webinar will include some home party sales coaching. So it's a double bonus, internet marketing and home party sales business coaching. So my question to you is, how much is a new customer worth to your business that you want to make a system like this work? I mean, let's say that your average annual sales per customer is $300 and you're going to make 25% of that. That's what, about $87.50, something like that. So that's a nice little boost. How much is a new hostess worth to your business? Now, I tracked this for myself one time. I was doing a networking group, and I wanted to find out, is this group really worth my time and worth my investment of time, again, a really valuable asset, and worth the financial investment I was making in that group. And so I tracked it. And I met with one of the gentleman's wives, met with her one on one, and booked her for a party. And so I thought, okay, let's follow this through. Well, she had about a $1,500 party. I was selling clothes. They have a very high sales per at clothing parties, and she had a $1,500 party, and I booked several presentations, and those were really effective. And as I tracked it, that season, her one booking resulted in over $13,000 worth of sales for my business, and I eventually sponsored 3 new consultants from that line of business. So that was pretty valuable. So again, how much is a new hostess in your business worth to you that you'd want to be really effective with your internet marketing? And how much is a new consultant worth to your business? I mean, do you take a look at how long somebody stays around when you bring them in, and how much they sell, and how much your bonuses are on those sales? Those are really important numbers to look at. So the company that I've teamed up with, we actually offer 3 different packages if you have, if you really want to focus your time on building your business rather than trying to focus it on internet marketing. One is for the consultant. The consultant meaning that you should be having a locally optimized site so that it makes sense if somebody wants to book a party that they're right there in your town. And so this is the consultant package. Now, that program, the setup charges, because we have so much to do to get that site up and running and get your information loaded into it. So right now we're in pre-launch of our big nationwide promotion of this program. So right now the setup for your site is $197. That's going to go up to $297 on April 1st, and monthly fee after that is $27 per month. That's going to go up to $47 on April 1st. The second package we offer is a team building package, and that basically is 3 locally optimized sites. So you can save some money. You could either team up with, a couple other consultants in your company, or consultants from other companies, doesn't matter. But we would create 3 locally optimized sites, or this could also be a package you could use when I talked earlier about that you might want to be visiting your mother, and so that would be a location where you'd want another website. You need to have an address so that the Google Places listing can get optimized there. So you could use them for your own locations as long as you have an address for Google Places. So the setup, you can save some money on the 3 because setup is right now $247, and this package to maintain is $47 per month. So considering what your time is worth and what the value of a customer and a hostess is worth, I think that's a very inexpensive investment in your business. So that's, as I said, you could share it with 2 other consultants or use this for locations where you travel when you have good reason to travel there. But the third kind of package is what we call the organization building package. This is for those who already have a big organization or they're rapidly building a big organization. See, we have 2 lead generation sites that are in the works, and let me show you what they look like. Let me see here. Here's the first one. The content is being developed, but what I want to point out is that these banner ads down the side, these banner ads are the places where you would have a banner ad for your business if you choose this scenario. Now, these are national sites, and we will be driving traffic in about 150 ways. And basically, we only allow one type of business on the site, and meaning we only allow one jewelry consultant, we'll only allow one candle consultant, and so on. These up here that show up, and these are right now are just in random order, except for jewelry that has already been spoken for. But These are the premium positions, and right now we do not have an additional charge, but eventually there'll be an additional charge for those top premium positions. So we have two sites. We have Find a Home Party Consultant, and we have Start a Home Party Business. And like I said, they're in the building stage, and these will be finished by April 1st. So again, those are national websites. So if you are a person building that huge organization nationally, this would be important for you, because I want you to see what happens with this sort of plan. So we have the two lead generation sites. We do all the work to drive traffic, and you can either use our banner, or if your company allows, you can use your company's logo as the banner. Those are the two websites: Start a Home Party Business or Find a Home Party Consultant. And when you click on the lead, when you click on that banner ad, it takes you right to your personal lead generation website. Takes them off of our site and onto yours. Like I said, we drive traffic to these sites using about 150 techniques, including pay per click. Okay, we pay for advertising for people to go to those websites. And we only allow one business category on each site, so you would basically lock out your competition. So here's what's included in the organization building package. So you'll invest in one site, and that's a banner ad. We also have a guest blogging opportunity. This is open to anybody on these sites, but we charge $79 to be a guest blogger, because when you do that on a national traffic site, you get great backlinks to your own personal website. So you can be a guest blogger twice per month, and so that's a value of $158, or basically almost $1,900 per year. You get to attend our monthly webinar that teaches you about online marketing. But here's what's really, really cool when you choose the national program. You get 15 local websites included with it, and there's no setup fee for those 15 sites. So you can use this with your organization. What I would recommend is that you actually sublease the sites to your team members, and you can figure out what to charge them for it. Certainly, if you're managing that, you should be earning a commission for doing that. So you can decide what you'd want to charge your team members to sublease those sites from you. And you will get notified when your team members get a lead. We set up the contact forms so that when somebody fills out the information on those sites, because you're the person leasing them, that you will get notified in addition to your team member that they've got this lead, which is great, because I'm going to tell you, most consultants do a really, really, really poor job with their follow-up. I don't know if you've ever experienced it, but I actually tested it, and I can tell you most do a poor job with follow-up. So that way you'll know they've got a lead. Should they choose to quit the business, some people try the business and decide it's not for them. So should that person choose to quit the business, you still get to take advantage of that website that's out there grabbing leads, and you can assign it to somebody else. We also, in this system, will set up that autoresponder system that I talked about, where when somebody puts in their contact information, they're going to get an email back automatically, and a series of emails automatically. So it puts your lead program on autopilot. Your investment, if you want to go to this national organization building level, right now we're in that pre-launch phase. So right now it's just $597 per month. Again, keep in mind, if you take that and divide it by 15 websites and how much you could lease those sites out to your team members, it's very, very cost effective. It's really just about $39.80 per site, and that's without considering all the benefits that they don't have to pay that setup fee. But there's another package in this organizational building format. You could actually invest to have banner ads on both of those websites I showed you. And that's strictly if that's still available for your category, because you once you scoop up the category, you lock out your competition. So you'd have banner ads on both sites. They can either be the ones we've created or they can be from your company logo if your company allows that. And again, the guest blogging opportunity, now it goes to 2 per month per site, and that's such a great way to promote your business. So that's a value of $37.92 annually, and you get included in the monthly webinar. So here's what's really cool. Now that doubles where you get 30 local sites with no additional setup fees. That's a huge savings. And you can use these with your organization again, sublease the sites, and again, you will get notified when they get a lead. And should they choose to quit the business, you still get to take advantage of those leads. And still, we have that autoresponder business, and it lets you put your leads on autopilot. Again, we're in pre-launch, so if you want to grab two of those, two of these, advertising on two of the sites and get the entire big package, it's just $9.97 per month. This will go up to $12.97 per month on April 1st. You will save for the consultants that you would lease these sites to. They will save $8,910 in setup fees. So that's just $33.23 per site per month without even considering all of the added benefits. But there's a special bonus for people who choose either of the organizational builders package. Once a month, I'll be doing a special webinar strictly for the people who have invested in the organization builder package. Think of it like a monthly mastermind group, because the only people who are invited are the people who have locked out their competition in each of those categories. So it's a very select group. It's a group of people who are literally building huge organizations, and they think a lot different than people who just want a really small business. So this is like a mastermind group, and of course, since I have a history of building a six-figure business and maintaining that, I will be sharing a lot of my insights, and everybody in the group will be helping each other build their businesses. So typically I charge more than the fees that you'd be paying for this website to be in one of my mastermind groups. So this is really a good deal for you. We'll cover business topics, and periodically I'll be bringing on a special guest onto that mastermind group monthly webinar. So if this is something, any of these three sites, like I said, if you've got lots of time and if you've got the computer savvy, you could certainly set any of these three packages up yourself. But if it's something that you really see the value of not having it suck up all your time, and you really want to focus just on bringing in new customers, hosts, and prospects for the business, right now you can go to susynelson-training.com/internet marketing. And that's where you can get all the information and invest in the package of your choice. But I do have a special alert. Remember, I said that there's 6 premium positions on each site. Those are the ones that show up on the top when you first bring up the URL. You don't have to scroll down the page to see them. Well, one of those, the jewelry category, has already been snatched up. But the next 5 people who grab the organization builder package will also get those for no additional fee, because we will be charging an extra $100 per month for those premium positions. So that's a $1,200 per year value. So again, to take advantage of these pre-launch discounted prices, go to susynelson-training.com/internet marketing, and I have a link to that page below this video. So I hope you have found this information to be really helpful. I really think that you need to get your internet marketing presence out there very strongly and really take advantage of what you can do locally and how you can beat your competition. So thanks so much for your patience with my technical difficulties. Again, You can get the information on the packages at susienelson-training.com/internet marketing. Thanks.